What's up, wildlings? Colin here. And I have got a mic in front of me because I'm going to be on the computer. We're going to do some screen recording. We're going to look at some of these articles that struck my fancy this week. I don't know what I'm going to call the series. Maybe it'll be like a weekly article review every Sunday or something like that. Who knows? Bear with me. It's going to be fun, engaging, interesting content. I got 3 articles that we're going to look at based on paleontology, ancestral health, our human past. And the reason... this stuff fascinates me, of course, but the reason that I want it to also fascinate you is because when you really understand where humans came from, you just become more enlightened, more intelligent, more aware, and you have better questions, and you're not duped by a lot of the dogma and the nonsense that people try to spit off on social media or whatever. I mean, it's a foundation, right? This is first principles thinking. To really understand human biology and where we came from, you have a broad picture of human and human health, and everything related to how we live and how we used to live and how we live today and the mismatch and all different things. It's just a better, more holistic, well-rounded understanding of the whole picture, right? When you have something like nutrition, people try to go in and cite this study or that study. Maybe it's observational data, which is really, really actually bad. Observational research basically means nothing, right? And I think it's more damaging than helpful. People cite these modern day studies and they completely ignore things that either we've pretty much ascertained through science and through studying our ancestral past, or are at least pointing us in a major direction. They just ignore all that. I feel like the average person, when you understand human biology and human past, you can see through so much of that garbage. That's why there's certain things that I just know and that are intuitive to me that I don't care what the recent research is, or I don't care about that. There's just certain first principles that I live by. Now, that doesn't mean I'm dogmatic, and I try to keep my mind open, and I would love it if somebody came by with a study that was a good study, right? And that actually disproved some of the things I believe, but that's not really happening. And unfortunately, I don't think it ever will happen because we can't really lock humans in a cage. So research is always going to be lacking. And that's even why, even more so, you have to develop your own opinions by understanding all of it. You need to understand human past, human biology, human metabolism. There are things that about the body that we know, the way like sugar interacts with our body or alcohol reacts in the body. Like these are things that we know based on science. We don't need some research paper to tell us that alcohol is not good for us when we can literally observe people that, drink alcohol all the time, get fatty liver and then fatty liver disease. I mean, calm down, Colin. I know. Calm down. Let's get to it. Those are the reasons why I want you to be interested in this stuff. That's really the thesis. Let's get into these articles. I'm going to kind of read through them, skim through them, highlight some of the main points, talk about them, and hopefully it's going to be educational, entertaining. Let's get to it. So the first article we got here is early evidence of human hunting found. The reason this article was very important, and this research was very important, is because it changed the timeline of how early scientists believed that humans started hunting. It changed it by like millions of years. It's a very big development when you learn something like that. And in paleontology, archaeologists have unearthed what could be the earliest evidence of ancient human ancestors hunting and scavenging meat. Animal bones and thousands of stone tools used by ancient hominids suggest that early human ancestors were butchering and scavenging animals at least 2 million years ago. And then they also talk about 2 million years ago, we see the big shift in the human fossil record of brain size and body size, which a lot of the research and a lot of archaeologists and paleontologists believe that the reason our brains grew so big so fast was because we started getting access to nutrient-rich animal products. And an example of this is something like, even if we could scavenge bones, we could get that very fatty omega-3 mineral-rich bone marrow because we were able to crack the bones open. And a lot of like other scavengers, tigers, big cats, etc., could not get at that bone marrow because the bone had protected that food. But we figured out through using tools and rocks and just basically our human ingenuity. Yeah, that's the word. That we could get that nutrition, and the more we did that, the better we got at it. And then we kind of moved to hunting in groups, etc. It is really important, this research, these findings, because it goes all the way back 2 million years, and it shows you that our hominid ancestors, like Homo erectus, Homo heidelberus, etc., that came before Homo sapiens, were doing this that long ago, which helps support the idea of us getting access to meat and then growing big brains and then eventually becoming Homo sapiens and figuring out how to work together and survive together. Group selection is what really propelled our species, and that's another reason why you have like Dunbar's number, which is 150, and the idea is that humans can't really keep track of 150 relationships and other people in the dynamic, so a lot of groups would splinter off at that 150 number. It's kind of a phenomenon of nature. But let's get back to the article. Exactly what caused big changes in human ancestors about 1.9 million years ago has been a mystery up until now, right? Some studies suggest a shift toward a meat-heavy diet, which enabled the changes like I just talked about. And then, of course, cooking. There's another great book written, I forgot who wrote it, but the book is, I'm pretty sure, just called Cooking, and it's about ancestral past and how cooking meat made access to a lot of these nutrients and really changed the way humans evolved, which is, again, a connection to developing fire and et cetera, right? So cooking was a very important technology for our ancestors. So researchers unearthed a trove of thousands of stone tools piled atop animal bones in sandy, silty sediment off the shores of Lake Victoria in Kenya. They're about 2 million years old and provide some of the earliest evidence of human species living in grassland rather than forest. Now, the reason that's important, our ancestors before hominids, like, when we more have chimp descendant, we lived in trees. And going out of a tree into the grasslands was a major risk for these species. And so the theory was, as the environment changed and as jungle kind of was replaced with grassland, right, through climate change, and you had more of these open plains, and there was more pressure on species to find food, well, we started venturing out of the trees, and the theory is some of the earliest of these, hominids or ape-like pre-hominid species was we started throwing stones. And so there's a really fascinating book written about this by, I think it's William von Hippel. I forget the name of the book, but his theory is that as we moved out of these trees, we became very good at throwing stones as a defense mechanism and then eventually as a hunting mechanism. And what we would do is we would actually throw stones in a group. And as we would venture out of the trees as small bands, we would throw stones, and that would help us ward off more aggressive predators. We're also finding a smaller game and other animals that we could kind of attack from a distance. So stuff's fascinating. I love this shit. So this combination of evidence suggests that animals must have been hunted, not scavenged, right? Not only scavenged, because we were scavengers. We were opportunistic scavengers, and our ancestors were definitely scavengers. But the theory of how we went from, like, let's say Homo erectus, which were most notably scavengers, to becoming Homo sapiens was the difference from moving from scavenging as a primary food source and moving to hunting, where we could actually actively go out and hunt prey. And that's when we moved to the top of the food chain. In modern-day Africa, scavengers don't eat such animals because their primary predators, such as lions and hyenas, will consume them entirely, leaving nothing behind. And so it opened up the door for more nutrition and bigger game, basically, is what they're saying. The site also contained the cracked skulls of larger antelopes, similar in size to wildebeests. They concluded that these skulls were likely scavenged by the ancient hominins. Even today, the Serengeti is littered with wildebeest-sized heads, Pharaoh said. Scavengers like hyenas will consume all the rest of the carcass, but they'll leave the heads behind because they can't crack them open to extract the brains. And there's another example. We could get things like brains that hyenas wouldn't be able to get access to. The team hypothesized that ancient human ancestors found the discarded heads in their landscape and then cracked open the skulls to access the fatty, nutritious, energy-rich brains that might have fueled the body changes seen later in modern human ancestors such as Homo erectus. So mystery men. So far, however, the researchers have found no traces of the hominins who hunted those animals. Although researchers aren't exactly sure who these human ancestors were, they certainly walked upright and were adapted to living on the grassland, possibly Homo erectus or its immediate predecessor. Well, let's see, who came after Homo erectus? Homo heidelbergensis. I always struggle with that word. Homo heidelbergensis. Habilis. Homo habilis. There's Homo habilis, Homo erectus. Okay, so the earliest Homo ancestors most likely descended from Australopithecus, which was a much further along, closer to the chimp and ape-like ancestors. So Australopithecus afarensis, best known for the 3.2 million year old Lucy fossil that was found in Ethiopia. That's right. Jawbone found in Lediger, also in the Afar, marks the debut of Homo in the fossil record at 2.8 million years ago. By the time the fossil records begins to pick up around 2 million years ago, there were at least 3 early Homo species looping around Eastern Africa. Homo habilis, Homo rudolfensis, I haven't heard of that one, rudolfensis, and Homo erectus. I am not good at pronouncing words. I didn't really pay attention in school, so that's something I'm working on. Forgive me. All right. So, this video is a little bit longer than I thought. I thought I would be able to get through more articles, But let's just cover this one real quick, okay? So this one is really fascinating. It's not really as much to do with humans as it is predators. This is the hunting success rates, how predators compare. And it tracks some of the percentages of kill success that these predators, most of them carnivores, have, right? I guess all predators would be carnivores, right? African wild dogs, 85% successful kills. The lean frames and endearingly large ears of African wild dogs are deceptive. They are one of the most successful predators anywhere, with a kill rate per chase of more than 85%. So what they're doing is the percentage of observed chases of prey and the percentage of the time that they actually catch the prey and kill it. Because you've seen those shows where like the big cats will chase down something, but they won't catch it. African wild dogs have an 85% success rate. Black-footed cat, 60% kill rate. Looks just like an everyday house cat. Cheetah, 58%. Now that's interesting. A cheetah, one of the fastest land animals on the planet, I think the fastest land animal on the planet, only has a successful kill rate of catching their prey a little more than half the time. Stuff's crazy. Leopard, 38% successful kill rate. Domestic cat, 32%. You never think of that. Your little feline friend living at home. Lions, only a quarter of the time are they successful in chasing prey down. Wolf, 14% success rate. And that's interesting because wolves usually live in, like, for example, here in this cold climate, this harsh climate where prey is harder to come by. So it's surprising they can survive. Polar bear, 10%. And again, these numbers might be a byproduct of the fact that they live in these harsh climates. Like polar bears live in one of the harshest climates on the planet, and they're only successful 1 in 10 times. Tiger, 5%. Wow. So that's going to be it for today's video because it's a little bit longer than I would have hoped. If you have any articles you'd like me to cover, dissect, critique, videos, anything, I'm going to start this new format where I talk about some other stuff instead of just ranting and raving on my own off the top of my head. I hope you like this video format. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe bell button, put the thinger on, etc. I want to establish a relationship with my viewers, and I want to be able to hear from you and hear what you want to hear because, again, we're here today in the Ancestral Mind to level up our awareness of human health and biology, right? And it starts with understanding things like this. It starts with going back to our ancestral past, maybe reading some scientific articles that have nothing to do with nutrition or health or longevity. Because when you build that foundation and really, truly understand where humans came from, like I said in the beginning of the video, you are more aware, more enlightened, more intelligent, and you have better questions to ask, and you just know more about things, right? It's just better. You have more knowledge, and as a result, you make better decisions. And if that means you got to stop eating all the sugar and grains, well, knowing these things and having them pop up in your head every time you make one of those decisions is going to probably lead you to eating less of that garbage in the first place, which is going to then lead to a longer, healthier life and better life for your kids, and everything's better, right? So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Live better. Life is short. And I'll see you in the next one.